So when I think of ascend, I like to do the visual of the fact that realize that we're small and that the soul is constantly wanting to spin towards expansion and lifting to a higher vibration. And it's wanting to become more and more and more love and light, right? And energy becomes stronger and more intense. And so this ascension process that we're going through is really, first thing that has to happen as a human species is we have to let go of what we think we know. Because up to this point, we've been living human 1.0, and, you know, how's that working for us, right? It's not working for us. So the problem is that, you know, when we do the brain work and we process that, we can start to see that the universe the whole time has had our backs. Even though we've been through all these horrible things, you know, in our lifetime, there's been a lot of pain and fear on the planet. We've seen, you know, a lot of people commit suicide. We have a lot of addiction. There's a lot of divorce. There's a lot of people losing their job, a lot of panic and fear. Well, we need to let go of anything that we think that we know in order to have a new journey and to be on the soul's journey. And so letting go is huge, because we have, in order to stay open to the possibility of creating something new and raising the bar for us to be able to fulfill our potential, you know, we have to get to the point where we have to be open. And that means that we need to stay open, which means that we have to get the ego out of the way. Because, you know, as Wayne Dyer says, ego is edging God out. So that spiritual side of us out. And when we're in this ego, we're just identifying with me. It's all about me, this body, what I can do. It's up to me, right? And it's very self-centered. When we're coming from a place of ego, we're actually closing off that part of ourselves from our soul and not letting it have a voice, not listening, not letting it have a say, not letting it be alive. And so the soul is the part of us that has the truth. It has this remembering. With ascension, the soul has the power to lift us up above all of the illusion, all of the chaos, and be able to help us see and remember the bigger picture. A lot of people call it removing the veil. Well, the ascension process happens when we let go and we become humble and we allow ourselves to stay open and vulnerable and allow our soul to be the master teacher, because the soul is the teacher of truth. So the soul remembers the laws that govern the spiritual realm. We haven't even looked at any of that because we can't prove it in the physical realm. No one wants to talk about it because they want to call it woo-woo. But it's a journey that we all need to go on to remember who we are as spiritual beings, you know, and remembering that we were meant to be free. We were meant to explore. You know, we were meant to experience love, wholeness, abundance, harmony, collaboration. And so it all starts with, you've got to get yourself, the ego, get it out of the way, let go of the old way of being human, and allow yourself to begin. Really, we're crossing that threshold when we get into ascend of allowing the soul to take control and say, hey, human,
get in the back seat.
Get in the back seat.
Right.
And just watch and learn for a little while, because I know the pathway of growing and learning and flowing towards truth. And so that's where we need to trust this process of what's happening, where we're open and we're vulnerable. And it's like a mother that is giving birth to a child is co-creating, you know, with this spiritual part of ourselves and bring a new being, giving birth to a new being. And she has to be in the most vulnerable position possible in order to bring that being into creation, right? And so it is scary. It is vulnerable when you begin the soul's journey and especially the process of ascension. You know, it's a very vulnerable place to be. But just remember that part of ourselves that we are discovering in the ascension process remembers the truth of who we are, why we chose to come here, and what our soul work is, why we're here on the planet. And that's a very personal reconnecting with your soul process that we're going to be talking about in further episodes. But, you know, what I want to say about ascension is that it's a process of the soul's discovery and remembering, okay, remembering the truth. Because we can never get to the point where we intentionally create truth on our planet until we remember the truth first. And so ascension, is that remembering of who we are, why we're here, and remembering the laws that govern the soul. And then once we know that, then we can start living by those rules, the soulful journey, letting the soul be alive and creating truth and being fully alive and fulfilling our potential. But we won't get to human point 2.0 until we first have this remembering. So it's the first part of entering, really bringing closure, close the door to the human experience. And that's getting the human out of the way. And then when we get into ascension, that's when the soul says, take a breath, sit back, relax. I know how to flow. I remember the laws of creation, one being love. And I will help you remember who you are so that you can align with that.
Part of like I wanted to add is the soul. We've kind of talked about it, that it's a very playful, right? Almost an inner child like type of thing. Remember when you were a child and all the things that you wanted to become, and I wanted to be a professional baseball player, and I
wanted to be an ice skater.
I had to be all these things, and a lot of times is we tend to forget when we were younger. Life just kind of beat us down a little bit to where we get to be our age and we kind of forget all those things that we wanted to do. Those things still live within us, right? And it's kind of what you said about the remembering process, is that you'll go through that and you're like, yeah, I remember, I want to do that. Why haven't I been doing it? So it's a wonderful process that I've actually personally been through with it, and that I just wanted to add that. It's such a great thing.
And, just to reiterate what Todd's talking about, when we talk about awake and aware, those stages, those are the stages where we're really doing that. It's deconditioning. It's taking all of that conditioning that we had learned for the first part of our lives and peeling back those layers and,
like an onion.
Like an onion, we're peeling back those layers of things that are not aligned with truth so that we can get back to the core, which we all know. We have beautiful children, grandchildren. When you see the little 2-year-old with sparkle in her eyes, I have a granddaughter. I have 4 grandkids. But, one of my granddaughters is so much like me, and everybody's like, we cannot keep up with Aria. But so when I look at her, I'm like, she is the epitome of what it means to be soulful and to live soulfully. And our children are so innocent and pure, and they're just fresh from that spiritual being part of ourselves. And they haven't been in the world a long time like we have. And they haven't gotten sick with all of these lies and illusions that we have that's covered up the truth of who we are. And so that deconditioning process has to happen. And that's part of the awake and the awareness. And then when we get into ascend, we start to say, okay, you got to let go of those things and be vulnerable and be humble and allow yourself to go on a journey of ascension, which is, infinite growth for your soul to have an experience of remembering the truth and then creating the truth.